What's up, you guys? Today I'm back to talk about the NBA playoffs. And for the first time in NBA history, we get to see NBA basketball be played inside a bubble. And I thought I'll make a video on some of the biggest surprises that we've seen so far. So here are the top 5 surprises of the 2020 NBA playoffs. First, we got Mike Budenholzer, the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks came into the playoffs as the number 1 overall team in terms of wins. That was led by current MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And as we all know now, the Bucks would go on to lose to Miami in 5 games of the second round. Now, Budenholzer was already known for his inability to make adjustments and rotations on the fly. But pretty much everyone thought that the Bucks would beat the Heat, much less going down 3-0 in the series and ultimately losing in 5 games. As much of a shock that was to see, the biggest surprise was Budenholzer refusing to play Giannis over 37 minutes in a playoffs game. According to Mike Budenholzer, if you're going as hard as these guys are in a playoff game, 35 to 36 minutes, I think that's pushing the ceiling. Strangely enough, when the Bucks were down in the series, Budenholzer played Giannis less and less every single game. In the first game, Giannis played 36 minutes, then 35 minutes, and then 34 minutes in Game 3. When the Bucks were down 2-0 in the series, Budenholzer decided to play his best player even less. According to Giannis himself, he said he could have played more. And to me, that was a huge disappointing surprise from an NBA coach. Next, we got the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat came into the playoffs as the 5th seed in the East, which meant that they were going to be the lower seed every single round of the playoffs. Although there was basically no home court advantage, that doesn't take away from the dominance that Miami has shown so far. Many did not expect Miami to make it to the NBA Finals, much less alone making it out of the second round. And yet, at one point, they had an undefeated record of 7-0 in the playoffs. They swept the Pacers, nearly swept the first seed in the Bucks, and then dominated a talented Celtics team in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat showed us that Eric Spoelstra might be the best coach in the NBA, Bam Adebayo might be a top 3 center in the league, and that Jimmy Butler is the best mentor in the NBA. Pretty much nobody, except for Heat fans and J.R. Smith, thought that the Heat would be playing in the NBA Finals. But here we are. Now, we got another disappointing surprise, Kawhi's clutchness. In 2019, Kawhi was seen as one of the most clutch performers with his incredible plays in the 4th quarter for the Raptors. Everyone remembers the shot that he hit over Philly last year, and it created this perception that late in the game, you put the ball in Kawhi's hands because he was going to win the game for you. Well, that certainly isn't the case anymore, as we all saw against the Nuggets. In Game 2 against the Nuggets, Kawhi scored 0 points in the 4th quarter of a playoff game. Like, yeah, sure, it happens to everyone, right? But that was the 8th time it's happened to Kawhi in the playoffs. Yikes. But it doesn't stop there. We all know that the Clippers blew a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets, and what a shock that was to the entire NBA. The Clippers were expected to make it to the Western Conference Finals, but instead they just lost 3 straight games while being up 3-1. Everyone blamed Paul George for his poor playoff performances, and rightfully so. But Kawhi was also nowhere to be seen, especially in the clutch. Remember when I said that in Game 2 that it was Kawhi's 8th time going scoreless in the 4th quarter of a playoff game? Well, it became the 9th time in Game 7. If you guys watched the game, Kawhi looked completely out of it. He didn't want the ball, nor was he shooting it well, as he only shot 27% from the field. He would go on to score only 2 points in the second half and 0 points in the 4th quarter of an elimination game. And I feel like this isn't talked about enough. It completely flipped Kawhi's reputation as a clutch performer for me. I'm not saying he's completely unclutch, but rather that he's given more credit than he deserves. Next, we got Jamal Murray, who is probably the biggest surprise that we've seen from a player in all of the playoffs. Jamal Murray helped the Nuggets overcome not 1, but 2 3-1 leads in these playoffs alone. He averaged 26.5 points per game, with 4 40-plus point games, and with 2 of them being 50-point games. He even scored 40 points in Game 7 against the Clippers. For someone that didn't even make the All-Star team, Murray certainly played like one of the best players in all of the playoffs. And at times, he seemed like the best player on the Nuggets, and that's a huge statement considering that Nikola Jokic is on the same team. With Murray's dominant playoff performance, NBA fans think that he could make the All-Star team next year, and personally, I think he can make the next step as we all saw in the playoffs. The last surprise of the NBA playoffs has got to be the boycott. On August 25th, 2020, the Toronto Raptors and Boston Celtics were considering boycotting Game 1 of the Eastern semifinals due to the shooting of Jacob Blake. At the time, it was unheard of to boycott an NBA playoffs game. But what was even more surprising was that the next day, it wasn't the Raptors or Celtics that boycotted the games, but the Milwaukee Bucks and Orlando Magic. It sent a statement that the rest of the league followed. All playoff teams started boycotting the games, and this has never ever happened in an NBA playoffs game before, and yet it was amazing. These athletes used their platform to talk about the importance of social justice and racial matters. It became bigger than basketball. There was no better time than the playoffs to send this type of message with millions of people watching. I hope the NBA continues to surprise us with these progressive movements because we definitely need to do better. Well, that's it for me, you guys. Let me know what you guys think about these top 5 surprises on the NBA playoffs. Did I leave something out? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.